Welcome to Nurses Month, a time to celebrate the incredible contributions of nurses worldwide. In honor of Nurses Month, we invited fellow nurses to share their personal healthcare love stories, moments that remind us why we chose this noble profession.
I was working the night shift on the pediatric unit. We were getting a patient from recovery that had just had surgery. A male, an orderly I assumed, brought the patient up and helped me get the patient settled in bed. After that, he handed me the chart and then he proceeded to read off the orders. When he was done, he asked if I had any questions before he left. At that point, I realized that this was the surgeon new to the hospital. This surgeon blew me away with his help, getting the patient settled in bed and making sure that I had all the information that I needed. Usually, someone other than the doctor brings the patient and leaves. This surgeon won my respect.
I had a patient. She was a child, only 2 years old, and had actually been sent home, they felt, to die on a ventilator. We were able to get her off the ventilator and she became more communicative. We had a bedtime routine. And one of the things that we did, besides read a book, was for me to tell her that she was my lover-dover. Well, as she progressed and learned more and more of her speech therapy, she became more communicative with that and could say, and answer our questions. Every time I would arrive or get ready to go, she would start taking her hand and pounding on her chest. And it took a while to figure out what she was doing and what she was saying. But then I realized that this child, who I had been calling my lover-dover, was telling me that I was hers, the sign for mine. And finally I asked her, "Are you telling me that I'm your lover-dover?" And in a great big smile, she says, Now, she will always be my lover-dover.
I am a 8-year breast cancer going on 9 years, and my son was recently diagnosed with testicular cancer in September of last year. We have a love story that as a mom, he was my biggest cheerleader when he was only 11 years old. And with his recent diagnosis with cancer, I feel I have had the pleasure to be his biggest cheerleader. He shaved his head for me, and he also was the biggest supporter between me and other cancer survivors by doing other things such as wearing pink socks throughout his high school and junior high years to support all of us. And with my son being so young, learning that his mother was fighting for her life, that it did help him during his cancer journey. I really love to write, and I really want to, between our cancer journeys as an inspiration, write an inspirational book to just show people that you're not alone. And through my experiences as a nurse and a cancer survivor, to show how grace, faith, and hope do get you through some hard times.
I've been a nurse for 25 years, and much of that time was spent as a hospice nurse. And I would like to tell you the story of my experience with a patient that I like to look back on as my watershed moment. One afternoon, I came over, and as I was sitting by her bedside, all of a sudden, she lifts her arms up above her, and she starts waving them around and going back and forth and up and down. What made it especially delightful was her laughter. She would laugh. Oh, I knew in that moment that she was rallying and that she was going to open her eyes, which she hadn't done for 2 weeks. I ran and got her nieces and I brought them into the room and I said, "We need to be here for this. This is very special." And we must have watched her for about 30 minutes. And then all of a sudden, her arms just fell to the side of the bed and her eyes flew open. And the three of us just stood there watching in total amazement. And I don't know what possessed me, but I leaned over to her and looking in her eyes, I said, "What was happening to you?" And she giggled and laughed, and she had the most beautiful smile on her face. And she said, I was going up to heaven and I kept bumping into stars. It was the most beautiful experience I have ever had as a hospice nurse. And even after all these years, it's the one that has stuck with me most.